Howdy everybody, this is Hope for the Best, and in this video I'm going to show you how I paint my Night Lords, mostly as a record for myself in the event I ever forget how to do this. So we're going to start with a pre-primed model, and then once the little turntable is done, we're going to get right in. So the first color we're going to use is Night Lord's Blue, mostly because it's thematic. And so with the model, we're just going to cover every bit of the power armor in Night Lord's Blue, which I'm just going to speed up here. So once the model is nice and blue, I'm going to use the second major color I use on my Night Lords, which is Morghast Bone. Now the reason why I paint the shoulder pads of my Night Lords Morghast Bone is there are a couple other people that I know that have Night Lords armies, and I wanted to be able to look out over a table of Night Lords, be able to pick out which ones were mine. So Morghast Bone is a bit thin. I recommend using 2 thin coats so that the paint is nice and solid, which will get you a model looking like this. So the next color is Lead Belcher. This is for all of the actually metallic bits. So for example, most of his las cannon, but all the little bits of his power armor that are metallic. And then his knife and all of that. But once those are done, I'll switch to a teeny tiny brush to paint his teeny tiny helmet details, whether that be this top pipe, little ear pads, and his eyepiece. So once all the metallics are done, we'll switch to Corvus Black. Corvus Black I use for weapon casings, whether those be las cannons as here, or bolters, or chainswords. I just like to use it rather than a full black, because it allows you to see some of the details that are on the weapon. So with the las cannon now done, we're going to move to our next color, which is all the little details. So Dryad Bark is what I'm going to use for his weapons holster, because it stands out nice against his deep dark power armor. And I'm also going to use this on the little leather connector for his knife. And I glue this knife to all my Night Lords because it looks cool. While we're working on the knife, I'll use Steel Legion Drab for the grip, just so it stands out against the leather of the strap. And I use this color on grips of everything. Next is Corn Red, which I use for the Night Lord symbol on his pauldron. And so this is just a standard Marine in a squad, so his skull is going to be completely red, and make the skull bone colors on important characters like sergeants, just so it's easier to pick them out of a table. So with that done, we're going to move on to the next color, which is Screamer Pink. This is what I use for eye lenses. You'll see it's just one step in the eye lenses as we move through the video. But while we're here, we may as well do the other eye lens, which I'm going to use Wog Flesh for, just so it contrasts again. So very carefully picking out the round bit of his eye lens. And then once that's done, you'll have everything based in. But I was a little sloppy, and if you're following this, you might be as well. So I'm just going to go back with the base colors that I've already mentioned and just clean up all of the little paint spills that I had when I was trying to paint this. But once that's done, then he's actually ready for our next step, which we're going to wash the model. Now I like the wash from the 2 thin coats paint range. We're going to use Battle Mud Wash for all of this stuff here, make sure that it's well shaken. And we're just going to wash all of the metallic details, any of the bright things. Basically almost every single part of this model, with the exception of his power armor itself, will be washed with Battle Mud Wash. So, once the wash is dried, it'll get you to a step like this, and now it comes time to bring back all the detail that we washed down. So the first step for me is to edge highlight his shoulder pauldrons, which I'm going to do with Morghast Bone, same as before, just very carefully running it along the edge of the shoulder pauldrons, just to make them have that little bit of extra pop against his regular armor. While we're working on the pauldrons, the next step is his Night Lord symbol, and I'm going to use Mephiston Red to bring out some of the detail here. very carefully running my brush over the raised bits of his Night Lord's emblem. And then of the skull, because remember he's just a regular troop, so he's not special enough for a full bone skull. But once that's done, you can see it's very nicely detailed. And then Eshin Gray, we're going to do almost the exact same thing, except for his las cannon. Once that bit of highlighting is done, we'll move to our next color, which is Runefang Steel. Now we're going to use this color on all of our true metallics. For example, the harness on his Mark 6 plate. I'll use it on his shoulder studs or his las cannon, just picking out each of the high details that would reflect a lot of light. And then also making sure his knife looks super duper sharp. So with the Runefang Steel completely applied, we're going to now brighten up the power armor. So starting with Cantor Blue, we're basically doing a broad highlight across all the parts that are on the top. So for example, the top of his helmet here, the little beaky nose and all that. And then very carefully choosing parts that would be very bright. So you can see me getting under his cuirass, but not getting right up to the harness. Making sure that there is that little bit of fake shadow, just to draw the eye. So with that part done, it's time to work on all the little highlight colors. So starting with Warpstone Glow, I'm going to make the eyepiece of his targeting lens look super cool. And then while we're on the eyes, may as well go to the next one. So with Evil Stun Scarlet, you don't have to use the air, it's just what I have lying around. I'm going to highlight the eye lenses. And then with his face done, it's time to highlight the power armor itself. So using Macragge Blue, again, how we're going to pick out all of the very tappy, bright stuff that will catch the most light. So the tip of his nose, his eyebrows, a little bit on the top of his head, and then any part of the armor that would catch a lot of light. So with that done, you could honestly call the model done there, but since we're Night Lords, we're going to add our super cool lightning flare onto our armor. So the color you're going to need to start with that is I use Kaldor Sky, and I'm going to very carefully yeah, there. So I'm going to very carefully draw a jagged pattern down the paddle that I want to use. Want to highlight with this lightning bolt. And then once the Kaldor Sky is dry, we're going to move over to Spaceship Exterior, which is just a very white paint. You can use any white for this, but you're going to very carefully follow the line you drew with Kaldor Sky to make it look like the lightning is illuminating his armor. And also put a little dot, his targeting lens. So that's the power armor completely done. And as you can see, the miniature looks pretty good, but no miniature is complete without the base. So I'm going to use Technical Astrogranite to very carefully cover the base, making sure to go right up to his boots, but not over his boots. And then once I have an even coat of the technical paint all over the entire base, we're going to let it dry, and then pull out our second wash color. So the second wash is also from the Two Thin Coats range, but this time it's Oblivion Black Wash, making sure that I am equally shaking that one. And then very carefully applying a dollop of it on the base, and then with an old brush, I'm just moving it around the base to make sure there are no huge puddles and that it is evenly settling into the technical paint. And once that's dry, it's just one last finishing touch, which is Abaddon Black, which I will carefully apply with 2 thin coats all the way around the edge of the base just to neaten it up. And then with that, that is a fully painted Night Lord, and in this case wielding a las cannon, ready to join the rest of his squad and rain high-powered destruction onto those who follow the tyrant. But thank you, I appreciate you for watching this video, and I hope you have a great day.